Hey, what's up guys? Matt Laidlaw here, sitting here with special guest Scott Laidlaw for this podcast and YouTube video. Today we are exploring a topic that I get asked a lot of questions about, and I feel like it rarely gets addressed online. So we're sitting here with Scott Laidlaw. He is our pre-owned manager, so he only deals with pre-owned motorcycles and valuing them for trades when they come in. He visits the auction every week as well, so he's looking at auction bikes and evaluating the values of those bikes. And we wanted to give you guys a few tips today on things that you can do to retain or enhance the value of your motorcycle. So there's a lot of things that people do that negatively impact the motorcycle's value that I don't even think they realize they're doing. There's also things that you can do to enhance or to increase the value of your Harley-Davidson motorcycle. So we're going to be going over some of the things that Scott looks for when bikes come in on trade. And so you can be cognizant of some of the actions that you're making with your motorcycle and how they potentially affect or impact the value of your bike. So Scott, welcome out to the podcast. Happy to have you here.
Yeah, appreciate it. Haven't done one of these before.
So we drug Scott in. He's not typically someone that likes to be in front of the camera too much, but since he does this pretty much every day of his life, he's the guy in the shop to get involved in a subject matter like this.
Sure.
So first off, Scott, I think there's a variety of things that can impact the value of a motorcycle. So let's first talk about accessorization. I think one of the big things that people want to do is as soon as someone calls me or you on the phone and they're looking to get a value on their trade, they want to sit there for 10 or 15 minutes and tell you everything about what they've done to that motorcycle,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
So take us through, Scott, some of the things that are good accessories and bad accessories and how those, like monetarily wise, how that affects the value of your motorcycle.
Well, it just depends. I mean, as you said earlier, there's usually the people going down the laundry list of I bought this part, this part, this part. And the thing a lot of people need to understand is there's certain things that, as you mentioned, that add value, and then there's others that either are like neutral or they're an accessory that you specifically wanted and not necessarily everybody else. And then there's other accessories in which people are like, maybe they add it to the bike and it's not something everybody else wants, or in the event that, they just don't do it right or they cut corners and things like that. And it just depends. Everybody thinks because I put it on my motorcycle and there was a stock part, now my bike is increased by a value of X, and that's just not the case at all.
Some people come in that want to get a value on their bike. They think that they're going to get dollar for dollar what they spent on their bike. They think they're going to get it back. But I've also seen people that say like, okay, I know I'm not going to get anything for the extras on my bike. Does it live somewhere in between? Like I usually tell people, you're going to be about 10 or 15% of what you put into your bike with tasteful, relevant accessories. Yep. You're going to get back. So if someone spends 10 grand in accessories and stuff, as long as they're good, like usually genuine Harley-Davidson accessories are the best, they're going to get maybe $1,000 or $1,500 back when they trade it in.
I think it just depends on the part, honestly. I think the ones that people are looking for that are items that will add true value, seats are usually probably the easiest. If it's a well-known seat manufacturer like a Saddleman or something like that on specific models, that's going to add definite value to your bike. Suspensions, like rear suspensions, front as well, but we see much more of the rear suspension. That's going to add value to your bike. A lot of wheels will add value. Some will decrease value.
What are those that are going to decrease value? Non-genuine, big fat spoke stuff?
No. If you have a Vikla or like a form of deluxe or something like that, twisted spokes, fat spokes, anything like that, those are probably going to increase value of your motorcycle. However, if you like painted them, or if you got a different color that may be a little bit off, or if you, for some reason, went back to an older style of wheel or a wheel that doesn't come on that bike, that's a stock wheel or something like that, even if you consider it an upgrade, that's definitely going to decrease the value of the motorcycle. So it just depends. And then if you have a bike that comes with spokes, sometimes putting on mags in certain models will help value. In the case of like lowriders, when they came with spoked option, the mags are a much stronger wheel. Plus, in some instances, people would put, like going back to the late model Dyna standards, where people would take the bronze wheels off, maybe the lowrider, for example, the lowrider S, and they put on the stock wheels. Some people preferred that over those bronze wheels. So, as you said, it lives somewhere in the middle, especially on wheels. But I mean,
well, I know, not to cut you off, but I know some aftermarket wheels, like the big heavy spoke wheels, we don't want to sell those off the floor for liability reasons. So do you think those negatively impact the value of the bike if we have to take them off for liability reasons?
Yeah, but the problem is in the used bike market is there's two factors. There's, what sells, and then there is, liability. So there are definitely manufacturers of wheels that there's instances where the wheel hubs crack or things like that. So they're a wheel that, potentially has some history. But the thing is, they also are some of the most widely sought after wheels as well. So it's just a balance of, letting people know, hey, there's potentially issues with this wheel. And then there's some instances where we have to take those wheels off. And then there's other ones where like, hey, the overall look of this bike is such that these wheels add to it. And then you just have to inform your customer, hey, this wheel, even though I'm pretty sure this is why you're buying the bike is because of this wheel, let me inform you as to potential for this wheel as far as some problems maybe in the future.
So is it safe to say that two things, you have to make sure the wheels that you're putting on there are relevant to that motorcycle and that style? It's got to be on trend with what people look for on that particular model. And two, you got to make sure that you're buying the wheel from a reputable brand that's high quality.
Absolutely.
So those are the two takeaways.
Yeah, for sure. And then the other thing that, and you just touched on it, is people a lot of times want to be a little bit different. They want to be hey, I want to change it up, or I don't want to go where everybody else is going with this particular model. And you got to understand that might be cool while you own the bike, that you want to do, instead of putting T-bars on your Softail lowrider, you want to do an ape hanger. And that's your style. But understand, dealers and other buyers, they play on the percentages. When the vast majority of people are looking for T-bars and you put an ape hanger bar on your bike, when it's certain models, you're devaluing the motorcycle because the next guy doesn't want your ape hanger, and neither does the dealer.
Yeah, good point. So once again, we're going back to relevancy. So is the accessorization that you're putting on your bike, is it relevant to the style that's on trend for most people?
Absolutely.
That's good info. Okay, so we covered wheels a little bit. Let's talk about what are some other accessories that you feel like are good bang for your buck in terms of when you go to trade your bike in or sell at private party. We're talking about you maybe trying to just sell your bike to another person, private party, not even going through a dealership. Sometimes the values, what can increase the value of your bike is the same as if you're trading into a dealer. So what are some of the other accessories that are good bang for your buck?
So we've touched on seats are a safe bet. Suspension is a very safe bet. Probably the other one that is mostly safe is bars. If you do what's on trend and, what the vast majority of people are looking for, because bars are super expensive. And bars, if you do them wrong, they can look very cheap as well. So a clean, well done, on-trend bar setup can definitely add value to the bike, because I'll sell a T-bar, like let's go back to a Softail lowrider, for example, or maybe an ST. And if somebody has done a nice bar job, I mean, even if a bike pre-owned, late model is very similar in price to even a new one or a stock one with maybe lower miles, people will still choose that bike 9 out of 10 times just because the bars are already done and they don't have to deal with that situation of having to go get new bars and then have them installed, because it's to do it right is, tons of labor.
So guys, it's very tempting to get either yourself, like go on YouTube and do the bars yourself, or your buddy that says they've done bars before. It's very tempting to do that to save a buck. But unless that person's really doing it right, you're going to do yourself a disservice. You have this expensive $20,000 Harley-Davidson, and I can't even count how many times we've seen people come in with bad bar jobs. and your electrical gets bad, your clutch and brake lines are the wrong lengths, and we've just seen all kinds of problems. So make sure if you're going to do it yourself, or if you're going to get your buddy in his garage to do it, make sure they know what they're doing, or you know what you're doing, because you can really do a lot of damage to your motorcycle. And, paying someone to do, sometimes people are like, oh, wow, you guys charge a lot of labor. Well, to do it right, the job takes some time to do a bar job right. And, I don't want to turn this into a plug for, our dealership and our technicians, but if you're doing an in-depth job on your motorcycle, like a big job, like a bar replacement, it's worth the extra time and money to do it right.
Yeah. And I can almost, a lot of times when a bike comes in, I can almost tell, oh, this was done by us out of the gate.
Oh, instantly we can tell if it was professionally done.
Absolutely. And it makes a big difference. And also that you use the right parts. Like if people are looking for like a Kraus or a Thrashin or something like that, those are going to generally bring more money when it's in a good reputable brand that has good quality control, instead of just, hey, I found these T-bars at the local swap meet and I threw them on my bike.
Crap. There's a lot of Amazon lights too. Well, what about lights? What about like LED lights, or like now the Baja lights are getting really popular? Yeah. Like what do those do to values?
They can add value for sure. It used to be when Harley just brought out the Daymaker, when that was a new thing and the LED was becoming more prominent. We would be able to, look at it and say, hey, this is a day maker, or what we referred to as a fake maker. And then you could, and then everybody's like, well, it's made by the same company. Yeah, that might be true.
Sometimes, not always. Some of those Amazon lights were not made by the same company.
Well, plus everybody says everything's made from the same company, when they know they went a little bit cheap.
It's all made in China or whatever, but that doesn't mean that it's the same quality.
Same country,
you can have varying quality in China.
Yeah, it's true.
What about a pipe? I think a good, nice exhaust system, a pipe, that can add value, and that definitely increases. If you're trying to sell a private party, someone is going to be a lot more attracted to something with, like, especially a full exhaust system.
Absolutely.
Like they start that Harley and it's loud, and you're wow, it's really loud. People are like,
absolutely.
I want to buy that one.
Absolutely. When I started, like, short shots, everybody put short shots, which is Vance and Hines pipe, on everything, every Sportster, every Dyna, everything, short shots on everything. And then 2-in-1s became more prominent with like TBRs and stuff like that. So it just depends. When it comes to full exhausts, certain brands, once again, are going to add value. If it's a good stainless, then it's going to add value to it. However, there's definitely, I've seen plenty of exhausts that are just like maybe 6 inches long and just immediately end, no mufflers, nothing. And it's something like that. The first thing that runs into my head is, I hope I have an exhaust lying around for this bike, because it's no way going out the door like this, But the sound sells when it comes to Harleys, But
I think what you're referring to is, at a dealership, we have a little bit more higher standards in terms of the sound and the way it runs, because a lot of times you put these like short little pipes on that have no baffle, muffler, all that stuff.
Correct.
They don't run right unless it's tuned properly, and we'll get into tuning in just a minute, a little bit more in depth. But let's talk real quick about some accessories that you see coming in, or some modifications you see coming in where it really negatively impacts the value of a bike.
So probably the easiest one is touring bikes when it comes to aftermarket, like electronics, like the head unit. People, and I don't see it quite as much now, because obviously you'd be out of your mind to remove one of these new infotainment systems on the 24s and later, or 23s if it's the CVO. But people used to knock out the infotainment system on the 14s and later models as well, even the 6.5. Which is the bigger, the GT with the touch screen and stuff, and people would replace them with their Sony unit or whatever. And
Casio.
A lot of people do the Marine units as well, but they just pull it out and they do it, and it's got this or it's got that. It's like no feature on those units are gonna come even close to replacing the value you've lost by removing those units out of the bike, but.
Yeah.
Plus the other thing, I've had instances where a Sony unit will come in just fine, and I'm not ragging Sony specifically. It can happen with anything, but like the unit died practically in day one when we gave him the bike, and that's just bad luck for us. But then I'm going on Amazon looking for a Sony unit to put back in this bike to try and, do what we do, which is take care of the customer. But I'm like, why? Yeah.
Now all of a sudden we're warrantying someone else's product.
I'm not even warrantying it. I'm just trying to make good. But it's like, if this was a Harley unit, A, it would have been covered under warranty, and B, I wouldn't be on Amazon trying to find, a Sony unit to put back in this bike, and I don't know. And I just tell the customer, look, we've replaced it, but I can't back this in any way. This isn't a Harley product, Yeah,
but what's sad too is the fit and finish, like just looking at the inside of the dash, usually there's like filler strips to make some like foreign head unit fit inside the empty cavity once you take out. Yeah, sometimes, not all the time. And sometimes like you don't even get better sound quality. A lot of times the sound isn't any better.
Yeah.
Not all the times. I mean, and I'm not saying that no one can make a better stereo than Harley, or the companies that Harley hires out to. But
sure.
A lot of times these guys come in, they don't have a better quality unit. As far as speakers and electronics, I also want to touch on when people put some of these aftermarket saddlebag speakers in there as well. A lot of times a bike will come in and they chop up their saddlebags into Swiss cheese, and they have these aftermarket Sony whatever speakers in their saddlebags. And again, we're not knocking Sony or some of these other aftermarket stereo guys, but you're just trying to these people that do their own DIY stuff and chop into saddlebags or put holes on the side of their saddlebags for their subwoofer.
Yeah, they cheese grate them out on the interiors a lot of times.
Yeah, so I mean, don't let me put words in your mouth, but that's something I see all the time where it just immediately devalues people's bikes.
Yeah,
we see that come in.
I mean, let's take auction ratings, for example. And when they see that sort of thing, they automatically take a big hit. Modified saddlebags or modified luggage, and it takes a hit right out of the gate. And they don't take into account for, hey, it's got better speakers in it. It's just like, hey, the saddlebags are damaged, and that's where it ends. And then as far as the wiring, most of the time, saddlebags are detachable. So, and usually the wiring from Harley is pretty clean, where they're still pretty easily detachable. But once you do that, usually there's a line that's stringed across, and it just depends on how good the wiring is done once again. But yeah.
Well, let me contrast that with using genuine Harley-Davidson speakers installed at a dealership. I'm under the belief that when maybe you do like the stage 2 or stage 3 boom audio system and you add saddlebag speakers and it's done right at a dealership or by someone who knows what they're doing with genuine parts, that the fit and finish is good, that can increase the value of your motorcycle.
Absolutely.
So once again, it's using, for electronics, it's using genuine Harley-Davidson stuff, and it's having it installed properly.
Correct.
That's the one item, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the one item, electronics like stereo equipment, where using genuine Harley-Davidson stuff is always better in terms of maintaining value. It's always better than anything else.
I can't think of an instance, and I've honestly never heard a stereo that's been aftermarket where I'm just so in love with the sound of this bike that I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm thrilled with the fact that this bike has this stereo in it. It's never occurred.
Yeah.
If they've got a stage 2 stereo or a Harley part, then I'm like, okay, obviously it's going to be a nicer sounding bike than the stock format. But usually at the end of the day, I'm thinking what am I going to do as far as this audio? I can't warranty this motorcycle, etc. So those are more my feelings than, this has a little bit better highs and a little bit more bass to it. That's the last thing I'm concerned with. It's like,
usually it's the installation, the wiring, and the fit and finish of everything. That takes precedence over like a little bit of an audio integrity bump on the bike. Yeah, very cool. Anything else you can think of that negatively detracts from the bike's value? That's a good one, by the way. The electronics is a good one.
Yeah, the electronics is probably the biggest one.
I think paint, if someone comes in with this crazy paint, like Harley's all about you're expressing yourself, right? Expression. But if you express yourself too much on something like put like personal graphics and things like that, like in paint jobs, like you're going to really devalue your bike, especially if the paint's not well done. And maybe you get a guy he's on his 3rd or 4th paint job and you say, here, take the reins on my $25,000 bagger.
And then just going along with that, I mean, I don't care how pretty she is, guys. Never put any naked woman on your motorcycle, man.
Naked women doesn't sell well.
Naked women just does not do well, dude. I don't care.
If you're gonna do a naked woman, just keep the bike.
just you're married to it, much like maybe the woman, dude, because that's just how it's gonna be. Yeah. But yeah, custom paint. Once again, it's one of those things that we touched on where it's like, you have now made it one of one, but unfortunately, there's a good chance that you're the only one that is interested in that motorcycle at that point. It just, people, once again, it's the percentages, and people are looking for. Plus, Harley has such great paint that it's tough to say that anybody else's paint is significantly better, obviously. That's the other thing.
Yeah, I would almost say, like, hey, if you're looking to maintain as much value as possible on your bike, and your end goal in this motorcycle is to then either trade it in or sell it to somebody, you're probably better off not painting the bike at all, unless unless it's a really, really good painter that does really good work, that's pretty conservative, that has something unique to you. And you can't, and don't expect to get a whole lot more for that paint.
Don't expect to get any more.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
That is one of those items. You're talking the 10, 15%. I don't even know if that applies to paint, honestly. Yeah. Even if you had the kick butt, awesome paint job, there are some instances, but it's like 0.1% of paint I see, which I'm like, man, I will pay more for this motorcycle because of this paint set.
Yeah.
And then, like, as you said, conservative as well. If you go nuts and do too much, it just detracts a lot from the bike. Like, we used to do some pretty elaborate paint sets with new bikes back in the day, and generally, you know, it's just hard to sell those motorcycles, even for us who's done custom paint on bikes.
I think a lot because they cost a lot. You know, a nice paint set, that's
$5,000-$6,000.
Yeah, at least on a Softail and a bagger, you're looking at like $7,000-$8,000. You know, for a really, really nice one done by Seth or something.
Yeah.
What about luggage? Like, what about like if someone comes in with a backrest or like maybe like a tour pack on their street
will
glide?
Maybe add some value if it's a genuine tour pack color matched. Very few people that buy a backrest is going to get much more value. In fact, I've got my upper area where I put takeoff parts. I've got 4 or 5, 6 at any given time of those backrests. So they just come in for whatever reasons, you know, and if it comes in on the bike, it goes out on the bike, but I accrue them if they have multiple for whatever reason, that somebody trades in a bike and they're like, here's this box of stuff, you know, then I'll have them, but it's not going to add a lot of value to the bike. But
yeah, let's move on to motor work, because I think this is a big one. Yeah, so I'll let you take the reins on this, because a lot of people will say, hey, I just got a call today actually. This guy says, oh, I've got this, you know, crazy motor work, and I spent, you know, $6,000-$7,000, and you know, it should give me a lot more value.
When it comes to motor work, for sure, you want to keep it with genuine Harley stuff as far as dealers are concerned. More and more, like, we're seeing like S&S cams and things like that. But generally sticking within Harley-Davidson is going to be where you want to be. And that is one of those items where it honestly, if you have a relationship with your dealer, you have kind of a set schedule where you like to trade in your bikes, and that's how you want to do it. Is I trade in my bike, I buy a new bike at the dealership. That's just how I operate. Then you should probably take into account what you're going to put in that engine, and stick with Harley. Like, for example, like, because we're in California, you can't do a lot of the stage work that we used to be able to do. Places that aren't California that have all the Screaming Eagle engine components and stage kits and stuff like that, those guys, you know, you can get good amount of power out of those parts, and you can still get it through emissions and everything. So, and you can even get a Screaming Eagle coverage on your warranty, for heaven's sakes, to cover those things as well. So it's practically a no-brainer to go down that road if you're planning on eventually trading it into a dealer. Because if somebody's got, you know, a stage 2 torque cam or something like that, then I'm like, oh, okay, I hear the lope, you know, and then I'll ask, you know, was it done at a dealer? And if they say yes, then it adds some value, not astronomical amount, but more importantly, I am now not nervous about the engine. I have peace of mind as a buyer.
Yeah.
That this is a bike that was done at a dealer. It's using Harley parts, which are made for the engine. And so you may not have just, gotten a bunch of money back, but I am not terrified of your motorcycle. And that,
and if you're selling a private party, that goes a long way too.
Absolutely.
I mean, when someone says, okay, well, what do we have here? And someone says, hey, I had a stage 2 kit installed at a dealership, that gives you a lot more peace of mind, especially if that person can say, oh, and by the way, it's under warranty as well.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this. So someone maybe out of state has a 131 installed, Screaming Eagle stage 4 on their bike. That comes in, still under warranty, all done at a dealership, has all the service records and everything. How much more are you giving for that? I mean, with labor, a stage kit, back when we were doing them at least, that's a $6,000-$7,000 job, after parts and labor and everything. It's a full top-end rebuild. What percentage of that money are they getting back when they trade it in?
That's a tough one, honestly. Just because, I haven't had one come through in a long time, if ever. And then the first thing I'm going to do is just make sure, hey, can we work on this bike here in California? Do we have the capability of getting it hooked up to the digital tech and being able to do downloads and this and that if we need to? That's the first question, because I think we've had, instances where maybe it was a California VIN, but they bought the stuff at a different place, and this shop did it out of state, and then it's like, well, we can't really interface with your bike.
There's a lot of variables. Let's just pretend for a second that we don't live in California, and a bike comes in, and he's got a 131, and instead of explaining all the caveats, what I mean, I personally am thinking between 15 and 20% back that what the person spent. That's what I think
that's probably valid.
Approximately.
If we're talking in thousands of dollars, I mean, maybe one or two. I mean, if that.
Yeah.
It's which I think will come in at about that. I'm not positive on the pricing on those parts right now. But
obviously, there's a lot of other variables involved here, guys. I just, I like to throw out a number just because it helps people get an idea of what they can expect, and kind of maybe curb some of the, when people think that, well, I spent $7,000 on the motor, I need to get $5,000 or $6,000 back. Like that, we're way off here, guys. And I'm not saying just speaking from a dealership. I'm talking about the open market too. I'm talking about you're selling that thing on the street, what you can expect to get. Yeah. And so I usually tell people this: if you're spending money on accessories and motor work and things like that, do it because you want it. Do it because you're going to enjoy those parts on your motorcycle. Don't do it because you think like, okay, well, hey, I'm going to get all this money back when I resell my bike. I mean, we're not talking about real estate here. We're not. If you do your kitchens and your bathrooms, are you going to get that money back like in a house? No, not even close. Are you going to get a little bit if it's done right, on trend, with the right high quality parts and accessories? Yes, potentially.
Yeah, it's definitely, this isn't an investment that you're going to see a return on by any stretch. I mean, you won't get your money back. That's just how it's going to go for sure.
So let's talk about tuners real quick, because this is a big one. Harley, in recent years, I think I want to say like when the M8 came out, basically.
Yeah, 2017.
If someone introduces a foreign tuner to their bike, an aftermarket tuner, and you take it to a dealership, that VIN gets flagged in Harley-Davidson's system and will forever be flagged. And once your VIN is flagged, if you have a powertrain warranty claim, then it has to be manually reviewed by the factory for the claim to go through. And in most cases, if you have a major motor malfunction, if it can be deemed that it was because of foreign parts or foreign aftermarket tuner, your warranty claim could be denied. So how does an aftermarket tuner coming in on a bike affect your trade value, or you think the value of the bike?
Well, it goes down generally. I mean,
because you can't warranty the bike anymore.
No, it can't be warranted. Harley now has a certified warranty as well, a certification process. So if it would qualify under that, just based on, having a certain amount of mileage or based on what year it is and the condition, you can certify a bike. But if that is on there, it's an instant disqualification.
So you cannot certify a bike that has its VIN flagged due to an aftermarket tuner.
Correct. Cannot be done.
Yeah.
So if it's a dealer that likes that certification program and they like to offer those warranties and those things to their customers, then it's right off the table. The other thing, there's certain tuners as well that we use, Harley's digital tech, and there are some tuners, once they're installed on the bike, that you cannot, you
can't access.
Yeah, you can't access the ECM or whatever it is. You can't get in the electronics of the bike.
Yeah.
So, if you want to marry your key fob, well, tough crap. You got to go and get a new ECM that'll interface with our digital tech in order to do it.
Yeah.
And there are potentially on some of these tuners, there's workarounds. I don't want to go into every tuner, but at the end of the day, just get the Screaming Eagle, the Pro Street tuner, or the Auto tuner. Most of them that'll work on
if
everything.
They're available in your market. Yeah. On a lot of the older bikes, you can get them in California. A lot of the newer bikes, like 24, 25 model year stuff, we don't have approval from CARB yet on a lot of the Screaming Eagle products. So if you live outside of California on newer bikes, just get the Screaming Eagle stuff, and you're going to be doing yourself a big service in terms of maintaining your value in your bike. Here's something I tell people too that are really into the performance thing. You know what? No one's telling you not to go, hog wild with your performance. If you like that stuff, get your bike tuned with an aftermarket tuner by your local dyno bro, and do the SNS, this and that, heads, cams, and all that stuff. Knock yourself out. But just know that if you ever want to sell that bike, or if you ever want to use a dealer in terms of trading it in or consigning the bike or something like that, you're negatively impacting the value of your bike. So once again, going back to what I said previously, go ahead and do it. It's your bike. Just know that you're not increasing the value of your motorcycle by doing a bunch of crazy over-the-top aftermarket work to your bike. You're also, in a lot of cases, you're lowering the reliability of your motorcycle. The more, the higher performing your bike is, the more you're getting that dyno chart, that horsepower up on that dyno chart. I hate to say it, guys, but just from experience, with high horsepower comes a lowered reliability and a lower lifetime of that drivetrain. And so that's very generally speaking. I probably get some of these, performance guys in here, saying, oh, Matt doesn't know what he's talking about, but I've just seen it over and over and over again, guys. Guys take their bike to a speed shop and they put up big horsepower, but just know that that's cool. That's awesome. I encourage people to do that if they have the financial, threshold for it. But just know that you're taking a risk, and just understand what that risk is, and be prepared financially to pay for any malfunction that performance work may cause to your bike. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
And we've even sold bikes on consignment that are just like heavily accessorized performance baggers and things like that, where it's like, we built it, so we're going to consign it for the customer because maybe it's too much for them at the end of the day, or
if we built it, it was genuine Harley, which is a little different. But
well, there are some instances where we did some performance parts that are not Harley necessarily because the customer wants it. We're not going to say, hey, we're not doing it because it's not Harley. We do plenty of custom builds, but at the end of the day, when we consign it, the new customer will say, hey, it's doing this or it's doing that. It's like, you got to understand, this is a bike that's practically a race motorcycle we've built. So it's like, with that comes some potential hiccups as far as performance.
It runs a little hotter, maybe. the pipe might burn your calf.
Yeah, it might.
Your wife might not be comfortable back
there. It might vibrate a little bit more, things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's just goes with the territory that, as you said, you're going higher. It's almost like a pyramid where it becomes, when it's base, it's much more stable. But when you get to the top of that pyramid, it can fall one way or the other pretty easily as far as things going wrong.
Yeah.
Plus the engine's under a lot more pressure. There's higher heat. There's so many things. Like,
you're running it at higher tolerances.
Absolutely. When they did the 110 Screaming Eagles, and they did the stage 4s, which took them up to, I think, 117 at that point.
Yeah.
Those engines ran real hot. But, they perform for sure, but that was a hot engine to begin with, and then you add all that extra to it. It definitely,
there's more wear and tear on your motor, and with more wear and tear, the longevity of the motor is decreased. There's just kind of no way around that.
Yep.
So I think the other thing that really dictates the value of a motorcycle is the condition, and more importantly, the mileage. Obviously the mileage is a really important factor, and a number that's super important and relevant in the value of a pre-owned bike. So Scott, are there like certain tiers? A lot of times I get people calling and say like, hey, what should I keep my bike under before I trade it in? Like, where's that magic number? Should I keep my bike under $30,000? Because once it hits 30,000, then all of a sudden the value plummets. Like, is there a certain magic number where values really like go down drastically?
Based on mileage, it depends. I mean, when it comes to mileage, there's stupid low, which is like sub 1,000. If you're in 3 digits, there is like, and it's more just imaginary than anything. I mean, what's a bike with 4 digits versus a bike with, 3 digits as far as wear and tear on that engine? But when it comes to 3 digits, people, it's like basically museum, at that point as far as the mileage goes. But ones that most of the people I see want to trade in a bike around 20,000 miles or so, and that's just kind of like, depending on the age, obviously. If it's a bike that's 1 year old, that's bad. 20,000 miles.
So let's talk
in
terms of like how many miles a year. Like if a guy's riding his bike 1,000 miles a year, that seems pretty low to me.
Yeah, I mean, what a lot of people think is the norm is about 5,000, but in all honesty, I would say that's above average riding for a lot of people. But it depends on where you live. I mean, there might be places outside of California where it's not a big deal to have that kind of mileage. But as far as big drop-off points, I'd say 40,000 is kind of where things start dropping off a little bit. And then if you
have above 40,000 miles, then like the values start going down quick.
Significantly.
Yeah.
That's like I wouldn't say I'm like a bike with 38,000 is worth significantly more than a bike with 40,000. It's not like it falls off a cliff, but
right.
Once you reach that point where it's 40,000, then dealers look twice for sure. And then, getting up over like 65,000 or so, it's around in that area that warranties can no longer be applied to the bike.
Yeah, we can't. Harley-Davidson doesn't allow warranty to be sold on a bike that has 65,000 miles or more on it. So
65 nowadays. I think they might have bumped it, but I thought it was 60.
I think it's 65. It used to be 75,000 years ago, and then they lowered it.
They did drop
I want to
it,
say like 8 or 9 years ago, they lowered it to 65,000 miles. If you buy warranty before you hit that 65,000 miles, though, even if it exceeds that 65,000 miles when you're still under warranty, it's still covered. You just can't buy the warranty once you're past 65,000 miles.
Correct.
So, yeah, I mean, if you're at 65,000 miles or more on your bike, that's where you definitely have hit that limit where it's like, okay, your bike is mileaged out, basically. I'm not saying that it won't run anymore and it's not a good motorcycle. It's fine. But I'm just saying like, okay, you're going to take the biggest hit at that point in terms of lowering your value based on mileage once you hit 65,000 miles.
Yeah, and also it's based on what services need to be done at certain intervals as well. Like the 20,000 mile intervals are probably the most expensive service intervals, and so that's one of the reasons why 20,000, 40,000, etc. that you need to take into account. Hey, dealers need to do the big service at that point. So if you haven't done that service, they're thinking, I got to do that service, So that's the other things that come into, their thinking when they're valuing.
So the dealership has to incur that expense, if the customer hadn't done that service. That's what you're referring to.
A good dealer, they're gonna get that service done. A bad dealer, they don't care because they're not going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
But anybody that's maintaining or has doing certifications or just wants to make sure the bike is updated on its service history, they're going to be doing those services and they're going to be valuing it based on if it's done or not done. Same with things like tires and things like that as well. They're going to take those things into account on what they're going to value your bike at.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think we'll wrap it up now with our final thoughts. I think the takeaways I want you guys to really take away from this are, we buy bikes to use them and enjoy them. I will never look down upon or frown on someone for putting too many miles on their bike. I mean, we celebrate mileage here. That's because that's why you buy the machine, is to use it and enjoy it. But in terms of accessorization, that's where I think I see people, I don't want to say making mistakes, because everyone has the right to do what they want to their bike. But if you are that guy that likes to trade in your bike and use a dealership and go through those methods to have the most, kind of secure and predictable basically life cycle of your motorcycle, trading it in, getting a new one, etc., then doing what Scott and I said, and that is your accessorization on the bike should be high quality accessories. Genuine Harley-Davidson accessories definitely fit that bill, but it doesn't have to just be genuine Harley-Davidson. It can be just other good quality, notable brands, and they have to be relevant and on-trend upgrades to really get any value out of them. And I'm sure, everyone kind of has their different, tastes and priorities when they're accessorizing their bike. If your priority is keeping and maintaining and increasing the value of your bike, then you'll follow those guidelines that I mentioned. And so I think that's the big thing. And then, some of these, big pitfalls that I see people, falling into, where they think like huge amounts of money spent on their motor that they're gonna be able to get that back. That's one that I see a lot, where people, you're spending a lot of money, and hopefully you enjoyed that performance when you own that bike, because you're not going to see that money again.
Yeah, so it just depends, but at the end of the day, going with having a stock motorcycle, no dealership's going to go, oh my gosh, it's just a lowly stocked bike. When somebody says, oh, it's mostly stock, instead of reading me off the laundry list of stuff they did, that's honestly, my ears perk up more for that than I did this and this and this and this. So yeah, sticking with Harley-Davidson parts, or just stock parts. And then the other thing is,
before you move on, Scott, is it safe to say that if you really want to maximize your value as you go from bike to bike, is it best just to buy the bike, leave it stock, ride it, and then trade it in stock? Because if people spend money on accessories, they're only getting at best 20% of that back. Yeah. So I think once again, guys, this goes back to just accessorize a bike because you love it, not because you think it's this investment where you're going to be able to get that money back. So I think if you're that weird guy, nobody does this, but if you're that weird guy that just buys a bike, leaves it stock, and then trades it into a dealership after 3 or 4 years, you're probably going to get the best return on your investment if you do it that way. Probably.
There's those guys are snowflakes for sure.
Yeah, no one buys a Harley and just like, oh, I don't want to do anything to it. Everybody outfits it the way they want to do it, and that's half of the fun. So I wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah.
Because it's so much more fun if you do stuff to your bike. You guys have seen my bike. I'm switching stuff all the time.
Yeah.
It's just fun to play with that stuff.
Absolutely. And then at the end of the day, it's like, everybody needs to personalize their bike, but very few people. If anything, just keep your box of stock parts, dude. Just don't throw everything away
or sell it for pennies on the dollar.
Oh, the amount of people that have sold their saddlebags, their Harley genuine bags, because they wanted some, extended bag or something. It's
heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking for sure. But keep your stock parts. And then on top of it, just don't leave it to, if somebody does work on your bike or changes something, don't just leave the parts. Ask them for the parts. And that way, if the dealer wants the option to change it back to stock, they have the option. You can give it to them. Because stock parts are expensive. They're super expensive.
Yeah, Harley parts are pricey.
Absolutely. So it's like...
And you may think that, I'll never need these saddlebags again. I've upgraded. But a lot of times these upgraded maybe saddlebags, are lesser quality. The plastics you get from Harley, I don't want to get another tangent, sure. But the plastics that you get from Harley are really good. And the paint quality is usually way better too.
Absolutely. Yep. And the latches, they fit perfect. You're not fighting the latches.
Yeah, finish is usually always better.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Hopefully we were able to help you out with some tips and kind of some expectations and things to look for and to expect if you're selling your bike private party or if you're trading it in. If you have any questions, leave those comments in the comment section below. I try to get back to everybody. If you're looking for a new or pre-owned motorcycle, come check us out here at Laidlaw's Harley-Davidson, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Later.